Alright, so I guess I should start by saying that I've never been the follow the rules type. Growing up, I always noticed how people trusted words more than facts. Like trust was basically currency if you knew how to spend it. I don't know why it never occurred to me to use that as a literal tool until I was, 24, broke and desperate. I had been bouncing between dead-end jobs, retail, call centers, the occasional temp gig, and nothing stuck. But then, one night, sitting in my tiny apartment staring at an empty fridge, it hit me: people will pay for things that sound real, even if they don't exist. And more importantly, if you make them feel like they're getting something exclusive, they'll beg for it. So yeah, that was the seed. The crime itself wasn't some impulse thing, it started as a challenge. Could I convince a total stranger to give me money for something that wasn't real? And not just a little money, like a significant amount. The thrill of it, I guess, was part of the allure. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just a one-time scam. This could be a whole career of sorts, if I played it right. I wasn't naive about consequences either. I knew there was risk. But at the time, the adrenaline of thinking, I'm about to trick someone so thoroughly, outweighed any sense of guilt. That first idea, selling a product that didn't exist, just because I could, it stuck with me like a virus. I started planning almost immediately. Once the idea was planted, I knew half the battle was making it believable. You can't just tell someone, hey, I have a magical product, give me money, and expect it to work. So I started small, thinking like a marketer, not a criminal, yet I needed a story, a persona, and the illusion of legitimacy. I picked a niche that sounded technical but obscure. Something people wouldn't immediately question because it was outside their expertise. Then came the branding, emails, a basic website, a fake company name. I even bought a domain and used stock images of labs and professionals to make it look credible. Next, I practiced my pitch obsessively. Every word had to exude confidence, authority, and trustworthiness. I also mapped out potential customers, individuals online who were desperate for quick solutions, startups, small business owners, people who wanted to get ahead. I told myself, it's not stealing, it's providing opportunity. That rationalization made the plan feel less like a crime and more like an experiment, a very lucrative experiment. The first target wasn't some rich CEO or big company, it was a solo entrepreneur on a small business forum, desperate to get an edge. I crafted a private message that balanced urgency and exclusivity, hinting at a solution no one else had access to. I remember feeling this weird mix of excitement and dread as I hit send. It was like throwing a dart in the dark, hoping it would stick. The reply came faster than I expected. They were intrigued, asking for details. I stayed vague but persuasive, dropping jargon I barely understood myself, making it sound cutting edge. Every time they asked a question, I had a pre-planned answer ready. I even added a fake testimonial from a previous client to seal the illusion. By the end of the conversation, they were ready to pay up front. I felt this insane adrenaline rush. The first step worked. I knew I had crossed a line, but the thrill was intoxicating. This wasn't just theory anymore. I was in it. When the client agreed to pay, I felt a jolt of fear and exhilaration at the same time. Handling the money was trickier than I expected. I didn't want any trace that could tie back to me. I set up a temporary account under a fake name, then arranged the transfer through a method that looked professional but kept me anonymous. Every click, every confirmation email made my heart race. The conversation with the client kept going, and I had to keep my act up. I sent progress reports and updates that were completely fabricated, using screenshots I generated from templates online. Surprisingly, the client never doubted me. They asked technical questions I couldn't answer, and I improvised, spinning vague but confident explanations. Their trust grew with every exchange, which only fed my adrenaline. By the time the money hit my account, I felt a mix of triumph and guilt. I had successfully sold something that didn't exist, and yet, Part of me couldn't believe it had worked so easily. It was intoxicating and dangerous. Just when I started feeling untouchable, things began to get messy. The client, flushed with excitement over their purchase, wanted more details, faster results, even live demonstrations. I had prepared for this, but improvising under pressure is a different kind of adrenaline. Every message I typed felt like walking on a tightrope. One wrong word and the illusion would shatter. Then came the first real scare. They asked to speak with a technical advisor. My stomach dropped. I scrambled, creating a fake email account and posing as a support specialist. I spent hours preparing answers, screenshots, and charts that looked plausible but were entirely fabricated. Meanwhile, I couldn't stop thinking, what if they checked the domain? What if they traced the account? Despite my nerves, I kept going. Each interaction was a test of confidence and nerve. Fear and excitement mixed into a heady cocktail. I realized that trust, the same thing that got me the money, was fragile, and I was holding it by a thread. By this point, I was living in a constant state of tension. Every notification, every new message from the client sent my heart racing. They were demanding faster updates, more proof that the product was real, and every response required careful improvisation. I couldn't slip up, not once. One mistake could unravel everything I had built. I started losing sleep, obsessively checking emails, rewriting messages to make them sound professional, convincing myself that I had to deliver something even if it didn't exist. The thrill of the scam began to mix with a gnawing fear. I hated feeling this vulnerable, but at the same time, the rush was addictive. There were moments when guilt clawed at me. I knew I was manipulating someone's trust, preying on their hope and ambition. Yet, every time the money hit my account, I rationalized it. It's their choice. I didn't force them. Still, late at night, staring at the screen, I wondered how far I could push this before everything collapsed. Things got real when the client requested a live demonstration. My stomach sank. I had anticipated emails, charts, screenshots, but a live call? That was outside the boundaries of my prepared story. I had to think fast. I spent hours rehearsing, creating fake interfaces, and setting up a screen share that looked legitimate. Every click had to seem purposeful. Every hesitation could betray me. The call started, and I felt my pulse spike with every question they asked. I improvised, mumbling technical jargon, pointing to graphs I had faked, making it seem like I was adjusting systems in real time. Surprisingly, they bought it, at least for that session, but the adrenaline was like a storm in my chest. I realized how thin the line was between control and disaster. After hanging up, I slumped in my chair shaking. The exhilaration of fooling someone was intense, but so was the guilt. I was addicted to both the danger and the money. That night, I realized this game could end badly at any moment. After the live call, things shifted. The adrenaline stayed, but guilt started creeping in, uninvited. Every time the client messaged, I felt a tight knot in my chest. I was living in this constant half-truth, balancing between keeping the scam alive and fearing exposure. Sleep became fragmented. My mind replayed every interaction, every fabricated document, every lie I had spun. I started noticing the moral cost. I wasn't just deceiving a stranger. I was exploiting someone's ambition, their trust. And yet, every time I looked at my account balance, the rationalizations came back. It's just business. They wanted this. I just facilitated it. Still, the thrill was undeniable. There was this intoxicating mix of fear, power, and control. I knew that feeling could be dangerous, but I couldn't resist it. I was addicted to the rush of outsmarting someone, to the illusion that I was untouchable. Deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before my luck ran out. It all started with a simple question from the client. "Can I see a detailed report from last month?" My stomach dropped. I had no such report. My previous improvisations were starting to catch up to me. Panic set in as I scrambled to fabricate something believable, spending hours piecing together spreadsheets, charts, and fake metrics. Each minute felt like walking on a cliff edge. Then, the client asked for clarifications that didn't exist, numbers that couldn't be explained. My heart pounded. I could feel the illusion unraveling with every message. I tried to deflect, blame minor system errors, promise updates. Tomorrow. Anything to buy time. For the first time, fear completely replaced thrill. I realized that trust, once broken, couldn't be recovered easily. And I was holding a house of cards built entirely on lies. That night, lying awake, I wondered whether this game I loved so much would finally collapse, taking everything with it, including me. By now, every message felt like a bomb about to explode. The client was getting suspicious, asking increasingly specific questions I couldn't answer. I couldn't just stall anymore. I spent hours crafting emails, generating fake reports, and even creating a technical consultant persona to answer some questions. It was exhausting, and my mind was constantly on edge. The adrenaline that once felt thrilling now had a sharp edge of terror. I was acutely aware that one small slip could expose me. Every notification sent a jolt through my body. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep properly, and I found myself double and triple checking everything I sent. I kept telling myself I could handle it, that my improvisation skills were enough. But deep down, I knew I was running out of options. The illusion was starting to crack, and I realized that trust, the very thing I had exploited, was also my biggest vulnerability. One wrong move and it would all collapse. Then it happened. The client emailed, clearly frustrated, demanding a full explanation and proof that everything was real. My heart sank. I stared at the screen, frozen for a few seconds before instinct took over. I crafted a response, balancing authority and reassurance, spinning a story about delayed data, server issues, and regulatory checks. Every word had to sound precise, confident, and urgent. The tension was unbearable. I watched the email cursor blink, imagining them reading every line and dissecting it. My hands shook as I hit send. For hours afterward, I refreshed the inbox obsessively, dreading the reply. When it finally came, it was cautiously positive. They accepted my excuses, for now. Relief washed over me, but it was shallow and fleeting. I knew I had narrowly avoided disaster, and the adrenaline was mixed with a gnawing guilt. I realized how dangerous this game had become. I wasn't just testing skill anymore. I was walking a tightrope over a pit I couldn't see the bottom of. After the confrontation, the adrenaline didn't fade, it morphed into something heavier. Relief mixed with an almost crushing guilt. Every time I logged into my account and saw the money, a wave of shame followed. I kept telling myself, it's just business, it's just numbers, but deep down, I knew I was exploiting someone's trust. Even daily life started feeling strange. I became hyper-aware of honesty in others, the way people relied on trust in small, mundane ways. Every interaction reminded me of what I was doing. Friends and family joked about scams or shady deals, and I felt a pang of recognition and feared that someone might see through me. Yet, the thrill was still addictive. There was this twisted satisfaction in knowing I could manipulate the system, bend perception, and get away with it, for now. That combination of guilt and exhilaration became a strange, almost unbearable weight on my chest, and I realized I was spiraling into a lifestyle I couldn't easily stop. Inevitably, things started unraveling. The client's questions grew sharper, and a subtle suspicion crept into every interaction. They began asking for verifications I couldn't provide and hinted at sharing my solution with others in their network. My heart sank. I knew exposure was near. I tried to stay ahead, creating more fake reports, inventing new personas, even scripting progress calls that required hours of preparation. Each lie became heavier, each interaction more exhausting. The thrill was gone. It had been replaced with pure survival instinct. I was juggling not just deception but the fear of legal consequences and the permanent damage to my conscience. Late nights were the worst. I couldn't sleep without replaying every word, every detail of the scam. Guilt and fear gnawed at me, and I realized I had stepped into something far bigger than I could manage. The money felt meaningless compared to the tension, and I knew I couldn't keep running this game forever without everything collapsing. It all came to a head one evening. The client demanded a live demonstration of full functionality, something I had no way of faking convincingly. My stomach twisted. Every scenario I imagined ended in exposure, humiliation, or worse. I realized I couldn't improvise my way out this time. Panic and adrenaline collided as I weighed my options. I could try to push forward, risk everything, or cut my losses and disappear. My mind raced. I thought about the lies, the hours spent building false trust, the guilt that now sat heavily on my chest. Every choice carried consequences, and yet I couldn't ignore the primal urge to survive, to protect the illusion I had spent months crafting. In the end, I chose to stall. I blamed technical delays, promised urgent follow-ups, and withdrew from any direct conversation. It was a fragile, temporary solution, but it bought me breathing room. Alone that night, I confronted a truth I had been avoiding. The game I loved was dangerous, and I was in way over my head. Looking back, I can't lie, I'm proud of the skill it took to pull off what I did. Planning, improvising, reading people, maintaining trust while giving nothing in return, it was a test of nerve and ingenuity. But pride is messy when it's tangled with guilt. I hurt someone's trust for my own gain, and that shadow hasn't left me. The experience taught me more about human psychology than any job ever could. People want to believe, and trust is fragile but powerful. Exploiting that can be thrilling, addictive even, but it comes at a cost. I realized that the thrill of control and the rush of adrenaline aren't worth sacrificing integrity, or peace of mind. If I could warn anyone thinking about doing something similar, the money is temporary, the high is fleeting, and the consequences, emotional, legal, social, can catch up in ways you never anticipate. Trust isn't just currency, it's a responsibility. Once broken, it's nearly impossible to repair.